Hey friends, and welcome back to another Ask Josh segment. This is Josh from Joshua Lappin Fitness, and today we're going to be exploring another question that has come up. Today we're going to be discussing a muscle building diet. So, what is a muscle building diet? What does it look like? And kind of what can you do to get on this kind of a diet. So a muscle building diet is similar to any other diet and is composed of calories, protein, carbs, and fats. The only difference with a muscle building diet is the way that the nutrients are distributed throughout those different macro nutrient groups. So in a muscle building diet, the emphasis is going to be on protein specifically. My recommendation usually falls in the middle of what the recommendations are. Some people recommend 0.8 grams of protein per body weight, some recommend 1, and some even go up to like as high as 1.5 grams of protein intake daily per body weight. Like I said, I like to go somewhere in the middle. So I like to say about 1 gram of protein per body weight. So for example, if you weigh 150 pounds, then you need to eat approximately 150 grams of protein each day for a muscle building diet. Now, that is typically composed of things like chicken, at least for me, ground beef, eggs, milk, and protein shakes. Those tend to be the easiestly prepared items. They're also the most cost effective and usually the most readily available items for most people. If you can swing it in your budget though, it's good to throw in something like steak, fish, and turkey as well. So obviously I'm talking about mostly protein sources from animal sources. There is some research out on plant-based diets. I just don't feel like there's quite enough evidence yet to support going full plant-based, so I do incorporate animal proteins for muscle building diets. It is historically proven to be effective. You also of course have your carbohydrates. I recommend the same thing for carbohydrates as protein. Get at least 1 gram per body weight of carbs. Carbs would be coming from rice, potatoes, oatmeal, fruits, and vegetables. Again, those tend to be the most cost effective for most people to be able to use. So you've got your macronutrients, and then you also need to consider your calories. Controversy on those as well, of how much calories you need to consume on a daily basis to build muscle. There's a couple different formulas out there. Some on the low end of the scale and some on the high end. Again, I usually try to go somewhere in the middle of that. On the low end, one formula I like to use is current or ideal body weight in pounds, we're doing pounds here, times 0.45, and then that number times 24. So how that works out for me, for example, my ideal muscular body weight is by 180 pounds. So I multiply that times 0.45, I get 81, and then I multiply that times 24, and I get 1944, which I round up to about 2,000 calories. So that tends to be on the low end of a muscle building diet. I'll drop some other calculators in the notes as well. One of the ones that usually falls in the middle is from calculator.net, and that gets me coming in at about 2,700 calories, so it's quite a bit higher. And then there's some other ones you can play around with too that kind of factor in what you're trying to do, gain weight, lose weight, build muscle, and then it also will kind of give you a macronutrient profile based on those numbers. So it really hard to tell exactly which one you need to follow. There's going to have to be some trial and error. So if you follow one and you're not gaining weight at all, obviously it's not enough. If you follow one and you're gaining the wrong kind of weight, like you're getting fat, then you need to perhaps adjust the macronutrients a little bit or the caloric intake a little bit. So, all that stuff to consider. But then you jump into, what are you actually eating on a daily basis? So I'm going to list this in the show notes as well, but this is a kind of a breakdown of my daily diet. For breakfast, I typically have 3 hard-boiled eggs, 3 egg whites. You can just take a hard-boiled egg and pop out the yellow yolk of that, and then like a third of a cup of oatmeal. And that comes out to about approximately 30 grams of protein for my breakfast. I also, at breakfast time, consume vitamins. I take a multivitamin, a probiotic, a fish oil vitamin, and an elderberry vitamin for immune support. Also, this is built on a 5 to 6 meal per day. The theory behind that is continuously feeding your body nutrients, especially that protein throughout the day, keeps the muscles fed and growing. After breakfast, which usually is around 5 to 6 a.m., I'll have a snack around 8:30 to 9 o'clock, which usually it can vary, but for this variation, it consists of a handful of mixed nuts and 6 large rice cakes. And that pumps in another 10 or 15 grams of protein into the system. Lunch is composed of 6 to 7 ounces of lean meat, 5 to 6 ounces of potatoes, and a small salad, coming out to about 45 or 50 grams of protein for lunch. That's usually around noon. Snack time around 3 o'clock is usually a protein shake and some fruit, another 30 grams of protein or so there. Dinner is going to look very similar to lunch as the way it's built. I just may change the meat up a little bit. Instead of doing chicken, I might do steak or something like that. And I usually alternate between rice and potatoes for my carbohydrate. For vegetables, it's usually going to be something like either broccoli or a mixed vegetable. And then if you need another meal, you can also do one before bed, around 9 o'clock, perhaps a protein shake, or sometimes I like to do some yogurt or something like that. So that ends up putting me about somewhere between 170 grams and 180 grams of protein, which is, where I want to be. So I'll list this in the show notes as well, so you can kind of have a reference. You can use this as your template if you want. For your daily food intake, you just may need to increase or lower mostly the protein and the carbohydrates depending on what your goal is. So, that's a pretty good idea of what a muscle building diet looks like. Other tips I would consider saying is learn how to cook in bulk. I usually boil 30 to 40 eggs every 3 to 4 days. So I got plenty of that protein. When I cook my meat, I usually cook that in bulk. I'll cook the whole pack of chicken. I'll go ahead and prep it, which usually it's like 4 to 5 pounds of chicken. I'll take, and split that up into, I buy these little packs. I think McCormick makes them, that you can flavor your chicken with. And I'll get 2 or 3 different packs and do 2 or 3 different flavors. But I'll go and throw the whole batch on the grill, even if it's winter time. So I'll have plenty of meat. And then I'll cook either a large pot of rice or a large pot of potatoes. So I have those throughout the week. The rice cooker I use has got a steamer on top. So this week I threw a whole bunch of broccoli in there, so I've got some vegetables. Or if you don't want to do that, you can also use frozen vegetables as well. Those are fine too. So learn how to cook in bulk. It's a great tip as well. So check back our channel a little bit later in a couple weeks, I'm doing a lot of research into a little bit more interesting diets plans. I mean, I personally don't mind eating the same thing every day, but I know some people want variety. So we're going to come up with some different recipe options for people, especially for muscle building diets. So hopefully that's been a little helpful for you to kind of see what a muscle building diet is like, so that you can kind of tailor that to your own needs and kind of get some ideas on what you need to be doing for that. So again, keep the questions coming. Been enjoying the Ask Josh segments. It's definitely very helpful for the audience. So visit us on our different channels, our different websites. I'll have them listed in the show notes again, and hope to talk to you again very soon.